Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Just wanted to make a episode before my wife and I head out with the family and go eat some good dinner. Hope you all are going to have a good Thanksgiving as well. So today we're going to be talking about the following. Supreme Court Chief Justice Roberts comes out against President Trump. President Trump makes phone calls to the branches in each military. And lastly, modern day book burning is taking place right before our eyes, with social media actively banning conservatives. This is A Better World, and I'm your host, Luis Acevedo. So starting off today, we're going to talk about some news that actually happened yesterday, and that is Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts comes out against President Trump and his statements that he made regarding the Ninth Circuit Court, in which ruled against President Trump's asylum ban, which is a very inaccurate and misleading name that they've placed on it, but it is what it is. He came out and stated the following for what President Trump said. We don't have Obama judges or Trump judges, Bush judges or Clinton judges. What we have is an extraordinary group of dedicated judges doing their level best to do equal right to those appearing before them. That independent judiciary is something we should all be thankful for. While he is true that we should be thankful for the independent judiciary, where he is wrong is the beginning half of his statement, stating that we do not have Obama judges, we don't have Trump judges or Bush judges. That is completely inaccurate. The way the media has been portraying it for years now is this is an Obama appointee judge, this is a Trump appointee judge, this is a Bush appointee judge. They have been doing this forever. And may I add that, to my recollection, the president who actually started to politicize the Supreme Court Supreme Court in general, is FDR, by trying to stack the court so that way he can make sure legislation that may have not been constitutional would pass once it got up to the Supreme Court. FDR started this a long time ago. And the media is going crazy because President Trump fired back at him and and tweeted out the following: "Sorry, Chief Justice Roberts, but you do indeed have Obama judges, and they have a much different point of view than the people who are in charge with the safety of our country. It would be great if the Ninth Circuit was indeed an independent judiciary, but if it is, why are so many opposing view on border and safety cases filed there? And why are there a vast number of those cases overturned? Please study the numbers. They are shocking. We need protection and security. These rulings are making our country unsafe, very dangerous, and unwise." President Trump was correct in calling out that the Obama judges do have a different view. That has been obvious since Obama has been in office, or was in office, with even the Supreme Court ruling in favor of Obama's health care plan, which was unconstitutional for the most part in what they have done. And this right here, when he points out that they are potentially affecting the safety of our country, they are, because they're ruling in on issues that should be left up for the president and legislatures to decide, and not the Supreme Court justice. The Supreme Court justice has nothing to do with national defense. They are just working on the legality issues, which I guess would involve some national defense, but not in the sense in which President Trump has the right to oversee national defense. So this right here is being blown out of proportion by the media. They're making it seem as if this is very unrare to happen. This never occurs, when in reality, Barack Obama, during his 2010 State of the Union address, he criticized the Supreme Court. He also criticized the Supreme Court again during a press conference for their ruling on immigration. Now, mind you, this isn't just a Barack Obama thing. George W. Bush did this, Richard Nixon did this, so presidents have done this before, criticizing the Supreme Court justice. To my knowledge, our current president hasn't actively criticized the Supreme Court at all. He has just stated Chief Justice Roberts is wrong in his analysis of the situation, which is 100% correct. We do now have a judiciary branch that is becoming politicized, which is very deadly and not good for our democracy, our republic whatsoever. So that was going on right there with Chief Justice Roberts and President Trump, that little dispute they had yesterday after the restraining order placed by the San Francisco U.S. District Court. Now, transitioning over to what President Trump did today, he called all the branches in the military, all 5 branches, and thanked them for their service and wished them all a happy Thanksgiving, while asking certain questions on what they were doing, how their facilities were, if they were being treated right, etc., making sure that our military members are being taken care of and that everything is up to date and everything they need is being given to them. The media, on the other hand, is completely disregarding that and talking about other things, like the journalist who was murdered and why are we still doing business with Saudi Arabia. President Trump brilliantly answered the question by stating, well, the world is a scary place, the world is a dangerous place, and if we start setting the precedent with Saudi Arabia and what they've done, then we're not going to have any other allies, we're not going to be able to do business with any other country, because so many people, so many other countries do very bad things as well. Not every country is great, and all countries have a bad side to them. This isn't something that should be news to anybody, because we live in a world with good and evil, and we all have good and evil within us. We just have to pick which one rises to the occasion on a daily basis. So President Trump is right in his assessment there that the world is a dangerous place, and that if we start setting the precedent with Saudi Arabia on this, then we're going to have to set the precedent with other countries to do the same thing. Now, people are saying that he's bought and that if you pay enough money into America that you can murder journalists and that's okay, which is completely inaccurate. They forget about the side of the story where Saudi Arabia is actually helping stabilize the Middle East. There's a civil war going on in Yemen, which we briefly touched on yesterday. And in the civil war, you have one side that is being funded by Iran, it's being funded by North Korea, and another terrorist group to try to overthrow the current government in Yemen. And the current government in Yemen is being backed by Saudi Arabia, is being backed by us, is being backed by France, is being backed by a lot of our allies and a lot of other countries as well. Whereas the other people are being funded by terrorist groups, by a country that chants death to America, and by another country, before President Trump stepped in, wanted to attack America, North Korea. That's who's trying to overrun the current government in Yemen. There is a huge humanitarian problem with a bunch of children starving, a bunch of people dying that don't have anything to do with what's going on in the actual war. But it is very important to realize that we are able to maintain some sort of control in the Middle East because of our partnership with Saudi Arabia. And President Trump realizes this. He also realizes that a lot of money is being given to us from Saudi Arabia, and a lot of jobs are being created because of Saudi Arabia. These are things that we should all consider before we jump on the emotional bandwagon, which too many people go off of their feelings as opposed to completely analyzing the situation to pick out what is going to be the best option in this situation. Right now, the best option wouldn't be to flee and stop doing deals with Saudi Arabia. It just wouldn't be. It wouldn't be smart for us, especially in a time where we are buried in debt. We have newly elected Democrats that are in office that want to extend that debt and essentially end America as it is. We have countries that want to annihilate America, and our military is deteriorating although President Trump is trying to fix that and revitalize what we have in our military. There's a lot of reasons why we need the money that Saudi Arabia is giving us. And it isn't as if we're turning a blind eye to what they're doing. So he acknowledges it. The other thing I want to also point out with this is the media continuously says the CIA concluded that the Crown Prince was involved and gave the order, when that isn't the case at all. And if you actually read the articles and if you actually look at what the CIA has said, they make an assumption that the Crown Prince was the one who ordered it. They don't know for 100% certainty. They don't know, which President Trump said today during the press conference he had after making the phone calls. He pointed that out, saying that they believe it. There is no concrete evidence pointing to the Crown Prince actually ordering the hit. There is none. So this is just being completely blown out of proportion by most of the mainstream media and most of politicians as well. And the reason that is because they want to get reelected. So they're going with emotions, which is a horrible thing. And I have to say this is going to be a very unpopular opinion. This is something I've been thinking a lot about for a while now, and that is, should we allow everybody to vote? You may be thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? I get it. It's a scary question to ask, but I think it's a reasonable question to ask. I think that, now mind you, I don't know the answer to this question, but I think that we should have a test. There should be some sort of requirement for an individual to vote for each election. You may say, well, he wants to bring back, the laws in the South that disproportionately affected black people. Well, that's wrong. That's not what I want at all. I want this test to be ubiquitous. Everybody has to take it. It's colorblind. It is completely colorblind, and it is solely based on your level of intelligence when it comes to government, when it comes to the issues at hand. I believe that we should all, before even voting in one election, there should be some sort of test that states that test your knowledge on government, on the three branches, what each branch does. At least have a basic understanding of that, and then have a test on the issues at hand to actually see if you're aware of what's going on, or are you voting with emotions? And if you're voting with emotions, that could be dangerous. Because a lot of things sound good but aren't good. I.e., for instance, ice cream. I love ice cream. My mind, my body, my heart is going to tell me to eat ice cream every day if I wanted to, right? But that would be bad if I'm trying to lose weight and if I want to live a healthy life. The short-term gain of ice cream is that I will be satisfied with what I have eaten. The long-term consequence is, well, now I've gained 100 pounds over a year. I'm at risk for heart disease, heart failure, diabetes. There's a bunch of other things that I'm at risk for long-term if I keep doing that. But it's good in the short term. That's what it's like to think with our emotions as opposed to rationally looking at a situation, which is why I think that we should have a test that qualifies you as a registered voter. That's my opinion, especially when it comes to issues that are going on in the Middle East, because people have no clue what's going on in the Middle East. I'm not acting like I'm an expert in the Middle East, because I'm most certainly not. There's a lot of things I don't know. There's a lot of reasons that I don't even know why the wars are going on in the Middle East. For instance, I don't even know the real origin of the civil war in Yemen. I just know kind of the brief summary that goes around it. So, point being is that we live in a world today where we get instantaneous feedback. We live in a world today where politicians can get on Instagram Live, can get on Facebook Live, can get on Twitter Live, and reach thousands of people, and can be pushing a bad idea, but it sounds very good, and it sounds very appealing to people who have very limited knowledge on what the side effects of their idea will produce. So that's what's going on right now with Trump and Saudi Arabia and the press conference that he had after the phone calls. And that's my opinion why I think that we should have a voting test before an individual can actually go and vote. Now, the other thing we wanted to cover today is NBC News just wrote an article saying Laura Loomer banned from Twitter after criticizing Ilhan Omar, which, if you remember, we talked about the newly elected Congresswoman Ilhan Omar yesterday, who wants to completely do away with our borders, who wants to abolish ICE. I forgot to add that she is all for FGM, which is female genitalia mutilation. Yep, she's for female genitalia mutilation. She wants to sanction Jewish businesses. She wants to support Iran, which Iran is the country that chants death to America. She criticized her in a tweet and calling her out on all these things. She just called her out on all these things that we're electing these kind of people to office, which is also why I feel that we should have a voting requirement a test requirement before people can vote. Most people have no clue of the consequences that will come from an open borders. You lose your country. Most people have no clue what the consequences will come if we keep funding, we're not funding, but if we started to fund Iran and started sanctioning Jewish companies. They don't understand the consequences of that. And they don't see that what she is doing is anti-Semitic at its finest, which is wanting to target one religious group over another. The Jews. That's the only people that she wants to sanction and have sanctions on their business. She wants us to stop doing anything with Israel, although Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. But isn't it funny that the media always dogs Israel? Isn't that kind of funny? Even though they're the only democracy, they're the only ones in the Middle East that kind of share our same values. And that's what they tell us everybody has the same values for, although this isn't true. So this is very, very scary stuff. This is modern day book burning, what is taking place. Laura Loomer quite literally pointed out the facts and she was banned for telling the truth. That is what happened, which is sickening, and it should be scary to all of us. And it should be an eye-opening moment that the left is going way too far. Way too far. What happens if this continues and we do nothing about it? This is just incremental steps to fully controlling the way we think, the way we view the world, the way we speak, everything. These are incremental steps. That's what political correct speech has been doing for years. It has been incremental steps to get us right here. This is a huge explosion from PC, from political correctness. At first, people in society would shame you if you called somebody a fag because it was politically incorrect. Right? Now, you're being banned for certain things. In certain countries, you're being jailed for saying certain things, which is wrong. Unless you are actually inciting hate, and not hate, but violence, then you can say whatever you want. As long as I'm not saying we should attack somebody, you should be able to say whatever you want to say. That's not what's going on anymore. We're trying to monitor the way people think and what they speak, which is wrong and scary, and we need to wake up. One more thing that I do want to talk about before I go is the House Republicans are actually have issued subpoenas for former Attorney General Loretta Lynch and former FBI Director James Comey. James Comey was asked to appear privately before the GOP-led inquiry, but he refused to do so. The reason he refused to do so is because he wanted a public hearing, so that way they wouldn't distort any of the facts. I believe he wants a public hearing so that way he can, in a way, control the narrative that's being released out into the public and by some measure make this a virtue signal on his behalf and completely evade true questionings and make it as if he's a victim in all of this. That's why he wants a public hearing. That way he can kind of manipulate emotions and pander to the Democrats and the leftists and what they believe, so that way the media will portray him as the hero and the House GOPs as the bad guys for asking him certain questions. As for a former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, good. I think they both should be subpoenaed. But for those of you who may not know or have forgotten, Loretta Lynch is the Attorney General that was met on the tarmac with Bill Clinton during the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email scandals. And then just suddenly, after they had their brief little meeting, everything was dropped. So, yeah, they want to see what's going on there. So that's what's going on for your news today. I know it's a lot, and I know it's a lot of controversy, nothing really too good, but hopefully you're going to have a great Thanksgiving, and you get to spend some good quality time with your family. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Happy Thanksgiving once again, and we will see you again tomorrow. Peace.